The night my husband passed away, grief hit me like a storm, leaving me trembling and gasping for composure. After decades of shared life, laughter, and quiet moments, he was gone and the emptiness felt suffocating. Just as I tried to steady myself, the phone rang, the funeral director, voice urgent and shaky. "Ma'am, could you come here now? We found something in his pocket and you need to see it. Please don't tell your children, you could be in danger." My mind raced in disbelief. What could possibly be so shocking, so urgent, that it outweighed even the pain of losing my life partner? I drove through the quiet, snow-covered streets, heart pounding and hands gripping the wheel, until I reached the funeral home. The director handed me an envelope, face pale, and in that moment I froze completely. "My name is Edith Carmichael. I am 63 years old." As I stepped out of the car and approached the funeral home, a crushing wave of grief swept over me, threatening to topple me to the ground. The chilly morning air felt sharper than usual, biting through my coat as if it sensed my pain. Memories of 62 years with my husband flashed unbidden, laughing over breakfast, quiet evenings by the fireplace, small disagreements that now seemed trivial. Friends and neighbors offered their condolences, but their words blurred into a distant hum. Each step toward the chapel felt heavier than the last, and the sound of my own sobs echoed in my ears. I clutched my handbag like a lifeline, knowing I had to stay upright, to face the ceremony, though inside, I was unraveling completely. Inside the funeral home, Edith struggled to focus on preparations for the ceremony. Floral arrangements, seating plans, and the program for the service demanded her attention, yet her mind repeatedly drifted to her husband's absence. Every detail felt simultaneously trivial and unbearable. She tried to steady her breathing as tears blurred her vision, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. The funeral director's team moved efficiently around her, their calm professionalism contrasting sharply with the storm of emotions inside her chest. Edith's children hovered nearby, looking at her with worried eyes, sensing her fragility but unsure how to comfort her. The grief pressed down on her shoulders, making simple tasks feel monumental, and she realized that no amount of preparation could ease the ache of sudden loss. The funeral became a gauntlet of sorrow she had to navigate with dignity. As Edith adjusted the arrangement of chairs, her phone rang unexpectedly, making her jump. The display showed the funeral director's number, but the tone in his voice immediately sent a shiver down her spine. "Ma'am, could you come here now? We found something in his pocket," he said, urgency vibrating in each word. Edith froze, her heart hammering in her chest. What could possibly be so urgent at this moment of mourning? Her mind raced, conjuring impossible scenarios, an overlooked letter, some insurance paperwork, or something far worse. She glanced at her children, who were talking quietly among themselves, unaware of the call. The funeral director's warning added an ominous edge. "Please, don't tell your kids, you could be in danger." Edith's knees weakened, and she realized her grief had just been complicated by fear and uncertainty. Panic and sorrow intertwined as Edith tried to steady herself. Her hands shook as she gripped the phone, and a cold sweat coated her brow. Thoughts of her husband's last moments, combined with the possibility of a hidden secret, pressed heavily on her mind. What could be in that envelope? Could it be something that endangered her, her children, or even revealed betrayals she had never imagined? Each scenario seemed worse than the last, and she felt a growing sense of helplessness. Yet beneath the fear, a spark of determination ignited. She would face whatever awaited her, despite the terror that threatened to paralyze her. She took a deep breath, knowing that she had to act quickly but carefully, walking the fine line between mourning and survival. Edith hesitated, lingering near the chapel entrance, torn between obeying the funeral director and staying with her children during their grief. Every instinct told her to protect them, to shield them from shocking news, yet she knew that delaying might worsen whatever danger was coming. She steadied her shaking hands, took a deep, calming breath, and reminded herself of her own resilience. She had faced losses and challenges before, but never at this magnitude or with such urgency. Her mind raced through potential outcomes, weighing caution against necessity. Finally, she squared her shoulders, telling herself she must go. Fear still lingered, but determination replaced hesitation. Edith understood that this was no ordinary moment. She was about to uncover a truth that would challenge everything she thought she knew. "Clara, no." Edith slipped into her car, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles whitened. The night was quiet, streets empty, but the snow glistened eerily under the streetlights, reflecting her anxiety. Thoughts whirled in her mind, the envelope, her children, the potential danger. Each red light felt like a countdown, each turn a test of her courage. She drove slowly, cautiously, aware that the slightest distraction could cost her precious minutes, or worse, make her vulnerable. Every mile seemed simultaneously long and short, time stretching and contracting as fear and grief warred within her. She whispered to herself, repeating the mantra that she would face whatever awaited her, that she had the strength to confront the unknown, even as her heart raced uncontrollably. Finally, Edith arrived at the funeral home, her breath catching as she stepped into the dimly lit lobby. The director was waiting, holding a small, unmarked envelope with a look of grave seriousness. His eyes avoided hers, scanning the room to ensure no one else noticed. "This is urgent," he said quietly, handing her the envelope. "Please open it alone. You must not tell anyone yet. Your children, it could put them at risk." Edith's hands trembled as she accepted it. Her mind raced through the possibilities, fear and curiosity mingling into a storm of emotion. She opened it slowly, heart pounding, and in that instant she froze. The contents were beyond anything she could have imagined, and she realized that her life and her family's safety was about to change forever. The funeral director, his face pale and voice low, handed Edith the small, unmarked envelope, urging her to take it somewhere private. "You must not open this here," he whispered, glancing toward the staff and children outside. Edith's hands shook as she clutched the paper, feeling the weight of uncertainty pressing against her chest. Her mind raced with questions. What could be inside? A letter? Money? Something far worse? Every scenario made her stomach tight with fear. The director's warning that revealing it to anyone could put her children in danger added a suffocating layer of tension. Edith stepped into a quiet room at the back, shut the door, and leaned against it for support, realizing that grief had suddenly transformed into urgent, perilous curiosity. The envelope might hold secrets that would redefine everything she believed about her late husband. With trembling hands, Edith carefully opened the envelope, revealing a stack of letters, folded documents, and a small, coded note. The handwriting was unfamiliar, formal yet urgent, and each piece seemed deliberately hidden from her. She sorted through the pages, noticing discrepancies between her husband's public persona and the hidden dealings outlined before her. Cryptic instructions, bank statements with large withdrawals, and coded messages hinted at financial maneuvers and dangerous liaisons she had never known. Each document felt like a puzzle, and the realization that someone had gone to such lengths to conceal it made her chest tighten. Edith's pulse raced as she absorbed the first hints of a life her husband had kept secret, one that could endanger her and her children if left unchecked. Fear and shock intertwined, leaving her stunned yet alert. As Edith flipped through the documents, a shocking truth emerged. Her husband had been entangled in secret financial dealings, possibly illegal, involving untrustworthy associates. Some transactions suggested fraud, others hinted at manipulation, and the coded notes implied that certain actions were being monitored by unknown parties. Her hands shook, eyes scanning every line with disbelief. Memories of his past behavior now appeared in a new, unsettling light. She felt as though the man she had known for decades had been wearing a mask, hiding a dangerous life behind ordinary smiles. The reality hit hard. These revelations could jeopardize her children's security and her own life. Fear clawed at her, but along with it, a spark of determination ignited. She knew she had to proceed carefully, piecing together the puzzle without alerting anyone who might be watching. Fear settled heavily over Edith as she realized the envelope contained far more than papers. It held danger. Each line she read suggested someone might go to extreme lengths to keep these secrets hidden. Thoughts of her children consumed her mind. Were they being watched? Could the wrong person discover she had this knowledge? Every creak of the funeral home's floorboards made her jump, and every shadow seemed menacing. She felt trapped between mourning her husband and protecting her family, unsure how to reconcile grief with the urgent need for action. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but she forced herself to breathe deeply and focus. The documents were her only clue to navigating a hidden threat, and she understood that any mistake could have devastating consequences. Edith spread the letters and documents on a small table, her eyes scanning for patterns and meaning. She noted recurring names, unusual transactions, and cryptic phrases that suggested betrayal. Carefully, she highlighted details, made notes, and began mapping connections between people she had once trusted. Questions raced through her mind. Who was loyal and who was deceitful? Which of her husband's associates had motives for harm, and who might be complicit? The envelope became a roadmap to a secret world she had never suspected, and she realized that unraveling it would require not only courage but strategy and patience. Every detail mattered, and one wrong assumption could cost her everything she held dear. A deeper inspection of the documents revealed subtle hints of betrayal by someone extremely close to the family. Names familiar to her, including trusted friends and advisors, appeared in coded messages alongside suspicious transactions. Edith's heart sank as she recognized that deception had infiltrated her inner circle. The thought that someone she had counted on could endanger her and her children sent shivers down her spine. Yet, amid the dread, a determination grew. She would not allow betrayal to dominate her life. Edith realized she had to uncover the full scope of the threat, confront it with strategy, and protect her family before anyone else realized she had the evidence. Fear was present, but clarity and purpose now guided her every move. Finally, tucked between the documents, Edith found a small, folded note in an unfamiliar hand, its message chilling. It referenced a plot she had never anticipated, one that could jeopardize her children and her own safety if mishandled. Her breath caught and she held the paper close, realizing that this was more than financial betrayal. It was a direct threat. She read and reread the words, each line escalating the tension in her chest. Who had left this note? How much danger were they willing to bring to conceal the truth? Edith understood that her next steps had to be measured, strategic, and swift. She could no longer rely on grief or instinct alone. The fight to protect her family and expose the truth was about to begin. Edith realized that investigating the envelope's contents required absolute discretion. She couldn't risk her children noticing her concern or tipping off anyone who might be involved in the betrayal. She started by quietly reviewing every document late at night, using her study as a safe haven. The soft hum of the lamp was the only sound accompanying her frantic thoughts, each line of text revealing new questions. Edith's pulse quickened as she recognized subtle connections and inconsistencies in her husband's dealings. Her mind worked like a puzzle master, trying to link names, dates, and amounts. She avoided mentioning anything to her children, even as they innocently asked about her mood. Every decision felt critical. One wrong word or glance could alert the wrong person. Fear mixed with determination, fueling her meticulous approach to uncovering the truth. Edith knew she needed an expert to verify the authenticity of the documents without raising suspicion. She contacted Harold Jennings, a former colleague and longtime family friend she trusted. Implicitly, meeting him at his quiet office, she carefully laid out the papers, explaining only enough to convey urgency without alarming him. Harold immediately understood the potential gravity of the situation and agreed to assist discreetly. Together, they began cross-referencing transactions, tracing bank accounts, and decoding cryptic notes. Edith felt a surge of relief. She was no longer alone in this dangerous task. Yet the weight of responsibility pressed on her chest, reminding her that any mistake could have consequences for her children and herself. With Harold's help, she felt her strategy taking shape, blending caution with careful investigation. Days of careful analysis revealed hidden bank accounts and communications with unknown associates that tied her husband to risky and potentially illegal dealings. Edith traced the accounts to offshore locations and noticed patterns suggesting manipulation and betrayal. The realization that these connections had been carefully concealed for years intensified her sense of shock and urgency. Every transaction told a story, and each coded email hinted at collusion among people she had trusted. The implications were staggering. Her family's safety and financial security could be at risk. Edith's hands shook as she recorded her findings, aware that these discoveries could provide both leverage and evidence. Fear and strategy collided, and she knew that one wrong move could provoke those who had orchestrated these hidden schemes. The deeper Edith delved, the more apparent the betrayal became. Some of her husband's long-trusted acquaintances had participated in schemes that undermined both his reputation and her family's well-being. Hidden letters and communications suggested premeditation, a carefully orchestrated plan to exploit and deceive. Edith felt the sting of disbelief. How could people she had considered friends or allies act with such duplicity? Her mind replayed past interactions, searching for overlooked signs that might have hinted at treachery. Shock blended with anger, but Edith knew she had to maintain control. This was not the time for emotional outbursts. Strategy and patience were paramount. The betrayal was deep, but now she had the knowledge and support to respond intelligently and protect her loved ones. Knowing the stakes were high, Edith meticulously planned how to gather more proof without alerting anyone. She created a timeline of suspicious activities, mapped out potential accomplices, and listed contacts who could discreetly verify details. Every action was calculated. Phone calls, emails, and visits were carefully timed to avoid raising suspicion. Edith's pulse remained steady, but her mind raced constantly, considering contingencies and worst-case scenarios. Each new piece of evidence added layers to her strategy, yet also increased her anxiety. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. Every decision could either protect or endanger her family. Her determination strengthened as she realized that careful planning, patience, and precision were her only paths to uncovering the full truth. Tension mounted as Edith discovered that the network of betrayal might extend into her immediate family. Small inconsistencies in conversations and unexplained events hinted that someone close could be complicit, or at least aware of the schemes. Fear gripped her heart. Any misstep could jeopardize her children's safety. Edith became hyper-aware of every interaction, every look, and every word, realizing that her investigation required absolute discretion. The home that had once felt safe now seemed fragile, vulnerable to unseen threats. Despite the fear, Edith's resolve hardened. She knew that courage, careful observation, and strategic action were essential to navigate the dangerous web surrounding her. The stakes were higher than ever, and the shadows of betrayal loomed ominously close. Late one night, while analyzing the coded messages, Edith decrypted a note that made her blood run cold. The message hinted at an insider, someone within her trusted circle, who was feeding information to the dangerous associates. The betrayal was closer than she could have imagined, and the potential consequences for her family were immediate and severe. Heart-pounding, she realized that uncovering the insider's identity was crucial before taking any further steps. Every name, every action, every word had to be re-examined under the lens of suspicion. Edith knew that she was entering the most dangerous phase of her investigation, where a single misstep could expose her and her children to harm. The tension was unbearable, and the next move she made could determine everything. Edith knew she had to verify her findings without alerting anyone, so she discreetly arranged a meeting with Derek Lawson, a former business associate of her late husband. Choosing a quiet cafe late in the afternoon, she approached cautiously, eyes scanning for signs of trouble. Derek appeared unsuspecting, but Edith's instincts told her he knew more than he let on. She carefully questioned him, asking innocuous-sounding questions while observing his reactions. His hesitations and vague answers confirmed her suspicions. He was hiding something. Each detail he revealed only hinted at a larger, more dangerous plot. Edith kept her composure, knowing that any sign of panic or anger could push him to act defensively. Every word and glance was a test of her strategy, and she felt the tension tighten around her like a vice as the truth slowly emerged. As Derek spoke in hushed tones, Edith began to piece together a terrifying picture. Documents and coded messages were part of a scheme that could jeopardize her children's safety and strip the family of financial security. She learned that certain associates had been quietly undermining her husband's assets while manipulating information behind her back. Shock and anger surged through her, but she forced herself to remain calm, knowing that rash action could worsen the danger. Each revelation felt heavier than the last, painting a web of betrayal that was far deeper than she had imagined. Edith realized the stakes were higher than she could have anticipated, and protecting her family would require intelligence, caution, and boldness in equal measure. Edith carefully considered how to expose the truth without tipping off the culprits. She couldn't afford to confront everyone publicly or prematurely, as that could provoke retaliation. Instead, she devised a step-by-step strategy to gather more evidence while ensuring safety. She began secretly documenting conversations, taking photographs of hidden files, and using coded methods to communicate with trusted allies. Every move was calculated, measured, and deliberate. Fear remained, gnawing at the edges of her resolve, but determination strengthened her focus. Edith knew she could turn these revelations into leverage, exposing the betrayal in a way that neutralized the threat. She felt a growing sense of empowerment, realizing that the danger was an opportunity to reclaim control, rather than a force to paralyze her. Among the documents Edith had uncovered were hidden legal papers revealing her husband's entanglements and betrayals, including undisclosed contracts, secret loans, and manipulative agreements with powerful associates. Each page read like a new shock, unraveling her assumptions about his life and the people around her. She carefully cataloged every document, realizing that the information could protect her and her children if used wisely. The knowledge brought both dread and clarity. She now had the evidence to secure her family's assets and expose deceit without falling into the hands of the wrong people. Every discovery reinforced the urgency of caution, patience, and strategy, and Edith felt her resolve harden as she prepared for the next steps in reclaiming control. Recognizing the danger, Edith reached out to her trusted ally, Harold Jennings, who immediately offered support and protection. Together, they devised methods to monitor associates without being noticed and verified the authenticity of every document. Harold's presence gave Edith confidence. She could now navigate the treacherous situation with a measure of safety. Planning meetings, checking legal avenues, and coordinating protection strategies became their focus. Edith realized that she wasn't alone. Her courage, combined with Harold's guidance, gave her the strength to act decisively. The tension remained, but but she could now face the situation with a tactical mindset, knowing that her family's safety depended on careful and coordinated action. As the investigation progressed, Edith uncovered the full scope of the threat. The betrayal wasn't limited to Derek or a few associates. It involved multiple individuals who had conspired for years to manipulate, exploit, and endanger her family. Each revelation made her pulse quicken and her stomach tighten, but she refused to succumb to fear. Instead, she methodically documented everything, noting patterns, connections, and potential leverage points. She realized that exposing the network strategically could dismantle the threat completely. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders, but Edith felt a strange clarity. Danger was imminent, but with intelligence and planning, she could turn the situation to her advantage. With the web of betrayal laid bare before her, Edith began preparing a decisive move to reclaim control. She reviewed all evidence, outlined the safest methods to confront the culprits, and considered contingencies if things went wrong. Fear lingered, but determination now guided every action. She knew the next step could either neutralize the threat or escalate it dangerously, and precision was paramount. Edith felt her heart pound as she made the final preparations. Every document, every ally, every plan had to align perfectly. She realized that the moment of confrontation was approaching, and the outcome would decide not only her family's safety, but also whether justice and empowerment could finally be hers. Want to see how Edith finally turns the tables and uncovers the shocking truth? Hit like and subscribe. You won't believe what happens next. Edith carefully used the documents she had uncovered to secure her family's safety and financial stability. She worked quietly with legal experts to transfer assets into protected accounts, ensuring her children would be shielded from any hidden threats. Each decision was deliberate. She double-checked every signature, account, and transaction, knowing that any mistake could put them in jeopardy. Fear was still present, but she felt a growing sense of control. For the first time since her husband's death, Edith realized she was no longer reacting. She was directing the course of events. Her meticulous planning ensured that every potential vulnerability was addressed, and she finally allowed herself a brief moment of hope. Her family would be safe, and the shadows of betrayal could no longer dominate their lives. With precision, Edith confronted the betrayers indirectly, using the evidence she had gathered to neutralize them without public spectacle. She sent carefully worded letters, backed by legal documentation, revealing that their schemes had been uncovered. The betrayers' attempts at manipulation crumbled under the weight of undeniable proof. Edith watched from a distance as panic and confusion spread among them. Their threats were no longer effective. This quiet exposure allowed her to reclaim power without stooping to vengeance or humiliation, proving that strategy and intelligence were far more potent than confrontation alone. Each small victory strengthened her confidence, reinforcing the idea that she could protect her family while remaining composed, clever, and unshakable. Authorities and trusted allies confirmed Edith's findings, validating the authenticity of her discoveries. Investigators reviewed her documentation, cross-referenced transactions, and confirmed the web of deception she had uncovered. This official validation provided legal protection and ensured lasting security for her family. Edith felt relief mingled with satisfaction. She had transformed fear into proof, chaos into clarity. Each confirmation strengthened her authority and reinforced her sense of empowerment. No longer was she at the mercy of deceitful individuals. She had the support, evidence, and strategy to safeguard herself and her loved ones. Her meticulous approach had worked, and she now stood on solid ground, prepared to face whatever challenges might come next. Edith realized that the very threats designed to harm her could now be leveraged into a position of power. By carefully sharing selective evidence with influential allies, she secured strategic advantages in family affairs, finances, and social circles. The people who once sought to exploit her now became aware that she could anticipate, counter, and even control outcomes. Edith's calculated actions transformed fear into authority. She felt a profound shift. Instead of being a victim of circumstances, she had become a decisive force, capable of directing her life and protecting her family. The empowerment was intoxicating, not in arrogance, but in clarity, resilience, and control. Word of Edith's courage, intelligence, and strategic prowess spread quietly among friends, neighbors, and colleagues. They admired how she had navigated danger without panicking or making reckless moves. Some offered support, others sought guidance, and a few simply expressed awe at her composure under pressure. Edith felt a sense of belonging and validation. Her strength inspired others and created a protective circle around her family. This network became a subtle shield, reinforcing the sense that she was no longer alone and that calculated courage could garner allies and admiration alike. It was a moment of quiet triumph, the recognition of her resilience and wisdom by those who mattered most. Having survived betrayal and danger, Edith took it upon herself to mentor younger relatives and friends about vigilance, strategic thinking, and resilience. She shared lessons about careful observation, patience, and handling deception without impulsive reactions. Her story became a blueprint for navigating challenges with intelligence and courage. Through teaching, she transformed her personal trials into a source of empowerment for others. Edith discovered that helping others recognize danger, plan strategically, and act decisively not only reinforced her own strength, but also extended the impact of her experience beyond her immediate family. Her legacy now included wisdom, empowerment, and protection for those she cared about. Edith stood confidently in her home, grief transformed into strength and danger neutralized. Betrayal that once threatened to dismantle her family had been exposed and countered with intelligence, strategy, and patience. She felt an overwhelming sense of empowerment. She had safeguarded her loved ones, reclaimed her family's legacy, and turned adversity into authority. The storm of fear, uncertainty, and betrayal had passed, leaving clarity and triumph in its wake. Edith's journey proved that courage, careful planning, and resilience could transform even the most dire circumstances into victory. With her family safe and her position secure, she embraced the future with confidence, justice served, and a renewed sense of life and purpose.